before she gets back on the train to return to Toronto, we have pulled her into our studio. Nahlah Ayed is here on Windsor Morning. We wanted to find out how last night went, and we also want to chat about her upcoming book that she wrote. It's now a bestseller. Good morning.
Good morning, Amy. Nice to be here.
Nice to have you here. I feel a little starstruck. How did you feel last night's discussion went?
You know, it was kind of an embodiment of what Randy wanted to do, which is that we all sat there and thought together, out loud. And so I thought it went really well. There were maybe about 75 people, mostly students, but there were also faculty. There were lots of really great questions. And again, the idea is to deliberate together. And I felt like that's exactly what happened yesterday, which, at Ideas, we love the opportunity to discuss, to crack open an idea, to look at it through space and time. And I really felt that we got to do that, not just in the lecture, but in the conversation afterwards too.
What kind of input did you get from the audience?
Yeah, there were lots of questions about it's a difficult concept. It's both simple and difficult. Civil discourse, what does that mean? Is it just politeness, or is it the ability to be able to deliberate without outshouting somebody else, and just having the capacity to think out loud on really difficult, fraught topics? And so the fact that questions were delivered, answers were delivered, and as I say, at a time of polarization, just that ability to be able to have that conversation together, I think, made it a success.
You're a host of a show that is all about exchanging ideas, getting people to think more deeply and broadly about things. I'm wondering if you sitting there and taking in what everyone was talking about challenged your own perspective of civil discourse.
Yeah. Listen, Randy gave about a 50-minute lecture which challenged everything that I thought about civil discourse, because it's a notion that seems really quaint and old and romantic, but actually is going to underpin our ability to deliberate together. And so actually, I think it's one of the most important conversations that we could be having right now. And I think of it, as I say, as a romantic notion, but I think it's very practical. And it's one that we all have to consider, given just how polarized our society is right now.
When can listeners hear last night's discussion?
We are hoping to run it very shortly, probably in the next couple of weeks, yes.
That's a quick turnaround for you.
It is very quick for us, but we are capable, even with a 1-hour show, yeah.
Let's turn to your book now. It's called The War We Won Apart. Give us a quick idea of what the story tells.
Well, it's the story of a couple, Sonia and Guy D'Artois. She's British, he is Canadian. They met while they were training for Britain's secret army, the special operations executive in 1943 on the eve of D-Day. And so the story begins from there. They both are deployed to different parts of France. They are there to help win the war, to help clear the way for the advance of the Allies after D-Day. And so it's very dramatic. They fought it apart, and then they lived their lives together here in Canada.
How did you become aware of their story?
Yeah, I was based in London, and every year we were expected to come up with a story for the anniversary of D-Day. And someone suggested the story of Sonia, and I immediately was smitten with the idea that there was a D-Day story related to women, because often, every year I was there, it was always stories of men. And so immediately I was interested, and then I learned the details of the story, and I could not get her out of my mind. She was a 20-year-old jumping out of a plane over the skies of France during war behind enemy lines, all by herself. That alone compelled me, and I could not believe there hadn't been a story written about her, a book, and so I decided to take it on.
It's interesting because you come across so many stories in your career, and this is one you decided to write a book about.
I know. People always say, what would you have written had you not written that story? I can't answer that question. All I know is that I could not stop thinking about her. I could not stop thinking about the fact that she not only was brave enough to do what she did, but she also moved countries. She was also a war bride as well as combatant. She shows up in Canada, has never been here before, and goes on to raise 6 children, post-war, while her husband continued a military career, in a whole new environment, a whole new life. And that alone, that also required bravery, and it was very compelling to me.
What do you think it was about the story that resonated with you?
Yeah, I think initially it was the fact that she was a young woman who was, knew that she wanted to have a role in war. She had a loyalty to France because she had grown up there, and that she would take on something so challenging for such a young woman. And in addition, I learned very quickly looking through her file and learning about her situation that she was really underestimated. And so to me, she was a compelling character because not only she was young and didn't know the contribution she was going to make, but she also outdid or outperformed what people were expecting of her. And so that to me was very compelling.
What is it about the book that you think it's done so well? Is it because people are buying into the compelling
Maybe.
nature of it?
Listen, I think Canadians love to hear about Canadians. They need to, they love stories that depict Canadians doing important things. I think that was part of it. And also the notion of, these two young people having to decide what they are going to do at a time of adversity. I think it's a decision we all have to make when there are, difficult times ahead. And so I think it's a lesson to all of us. It invites us to think about what we do, what our role is when adversity is before us.
Now, you had a quick turnaround here in Windsor, but were you able to take in much of the city?
You know what? The most important thing I think I took in was first talking to people. Yeah, so we had some great chats after the lecture, but also just looking out onto the skyline. What a beautiful, beautiful skyline. I took a few pictures.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take some pictures, I think, before you leave. Thank you
Excellent.
so much, Nahlah.
Thank you, Amy. Thanks for having us here.
So wonderful. Nahlah Ayed is the author of a best-selling book. It's called The War We Won Apart, the untold story of two elite agents who became one of the most decorated couples of World War II. She's also the host, as you know, of CBC's Ideas program. Last night, a discussion about civil discourse was recorded for Ideas at the University of Windsor.